somebody's ears.
Look, I'm telling you. Always, always. Billy keeps me on my toes.
It might not be your time, but it's a time.
Right.
For me, my time comes the time of that.
I'm on God's time.
He just checked me on that. He just checked me on that.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not here tonight. Yeah. As soon as you get up, I'm leaving. How you been doing?
Okay.
Good. Oh, that thing that make me do nothing but cough. Yeah, well, you know, we had a guy in our office. Got a call from his wife today.
Which office?
In the courthouse.
Oh, somebody got it?
His wife, she said she'd been sick for the last couple of days. She did the test, came back negative. She got to the office, her office, and her boss, evidently he didn't like the way she looked or sounded or something. Sent her to the doctor, tested positive. Had a temperature of 101. So. How many cases you got tonight?
There's no zoning cases. Wow. It's just an RFP.
Wow. That is wonderful. There's Mr. Troublemaker himself.
You know, it's California. All I can get over twice. Before we got over 20, had to take. Locked down there. So, well, I think like this. The less time you spend in the White House, the better off we are. Well, you might be.
You do know he lives in the White House, right? You do know he lives in the White House, so he's not away from there.
No, he's away from us.
No, he's not.
He don't live in the White House.
He does live in the White House. Okay.
Where did he live?
In the White House.
No. He lives in his parents. All the White House. He lives in Maryland. He don't live in the White House all the time. I can tell. That's where he fell off his bicycle.
I used to give you some credit, man.
He's not Delaware. Well, I don't know. He's not in the White House. He's home. Okay.
Well, took us on Friday. Everybody went to the Affordability. They did change some stuff. They said change some stuff. Yeah, that's the issue that I do have. They made changes and I'll send it back out. So they did, and I think that's correct. Yeah. That's the issue. Yeah. You are correct.
I got big. Man, I wonder, what districts are you?
3. That's Salem, Brown Ridge, Rockville, Fairview, the west side of Judea, right close to it. No, I'm close to county.
You said Denver. CBS.
That's district, well, that is part of, this, to the CBS, I stop at the CBS. And then I go down a little bit toward Brown Ridge.
So we got that CBS on 36.
No, that's probably the mom, District 2. The mom is.
I just wondered, who got the money for the laws affected up there?
That's probably the mom or Sam. I'm not sure, it's out of those 2. Yeah, it's out of those 2.
Trees over here and all that. Sewer.
Is that where the road came in? It's recently had like a road that came in. You have to
Bridge.
It was a bridge and also, well, I guess it was a bridge.
Go there. And they killed that man?
No, not that. That's in my area.
Okay, I think Yellow River.
Yeah, that's in my area. That bridge is in my area.
Wonder if they want to get through there. I bet they'll build a 4-lane bridge.
I know GDOT is one of the individuals working on it. I don't know why they haven't done it.
That would be what, county road?
Yeah, it's part of county and then the bridge is Georgia.
Okay. I remember one time they tried to give the bypass to the county, to the state. They wouldn't give the bypass to the state.
Probably because they didn't like those.
That's ain't the one they have, they'd have to pay for it to keep it up, we would do that.
Yes.
But they changed that.
I'm pretty sure they do this. There's more money they have to take. Yes, but
They send you the
complaining. They don't check it.
You say it like I'm choosing to do it.
Yes, okay, they just made it their own.
No, I'm happy to do it. I'm going to be in the door. Try to clear it up just about 5 minutes after I got it. Thanks for pointing that out. Have you looked at that? Which one? The west side? No, sometimes west side cleaner. That's all it says. Yeah.
What time? Oh my God! To officially meet you, I see your face over here, but now you're okay. Got it. Are you presenting tonight?
I am.
I was wondering, did you want me to sit on this side so it would be easy for you to get out?
Yeah, that might make sense.
I think so. I just don't want you to have to go first.
Yeah.
Yeah, this way is convenient for you. I don't want to be in your way. All right. Now also, did you need water? Because you're good. Okay, no problem.
I might still want to candy.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
So are you chambers?
So normally when you see the English,
The woman behind me.
yes, trying to keep him on track.
Well, I'm the man behind the owner. I do that for Andrew Davis a lot when they're working in Fairview County. There's an email Andrew, she sends it out. And then they meet me and they're like, I know about this issue. Oh, I know more than you think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know.
I did.
I'm going to talk about things lost issues and the lost contract for lost. So I'll do that. And then go.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Today is August 2nd, 2022. The thought for today is genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to simple. That's C.W. Sibian. I'm going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. I'm going to ask if Commissioner Epps, sir, if you would lead us in our invocation tonight, and following that, I'm going to ask Commissioner Cowan if he would lead us in our pledge.
Bow your heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. Thank you for the opportunity to come together and collaborate on behalf of our county. Lord, we ask that you guide us, give us discernment and wisdom in everything that we do. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioners, we're getting ready to adopt the agenda. I have one item I need to add, 18A. 18A. I'm asking for the county to pay for the audit of Vanessa Heights, Washington Street, and McIntosh. 18A. 18A. With that, I seek a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passed 4-0. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have a discussion, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. So we're paying for the audit for McIntosh, what is the purpose of? I just wanted to know, I didn't know what that was for. That was
Say it again.
in regards to 18A, we're paying for the audit of these nonprofits.
So this is for discussion
Okay,
and consideration.
okay.
Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity that we allow citizens to come up and make comments about agenda topics only. At this point, agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name and your address for the record, please. Agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Butler. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. After reviewing RFP 2213, Opera Consulting Services for Oversight and Compliance, I had questions. On July the 26th, 2022, I did 3 open records requests to Jackie Smith, County Clerk. Brittany White answered the open record request. In the previous meeting, it was stated the selected vendor was awarded the contract because they were the lowest bid. After reviewing the open record request, there are 4 other vendors that responded with a lower price. 4. I have a copy. I have a printout. If you want to receive them, please do. There are 4 other vendors lower than the one that you want to award this contract to. If we decide to award this contract, we open ourselves up for other vendors to sue Newton County based on saying this is the lowest bid. Contracts, I recommend should be a separate department from finance. Currently, you have Brittany White managing both departments. Before COVID, I understand this were 2 departments. It is traditional business that purchasing and contracts are separate departments because you need a check and balance between the 2. I recommend Newton County hire a grant writer. We could not apply for the money that Governor Kemp gave to 51 other counties. We don't have a grant writer. We could not apply for this money. It is my recommendation that we hire a grant writer. We've had a posting since April for a grant writer. To me, this would be a priority that the county would want to have additional funds to come in to help the community. I can't understand why you don't. I think the price should be competitive as far as offering a salary. I looked at it on the internet. I didn't see a salary posted. But I think a fair price to have a grant writer to help the citizens of Newton County. Those are my recommendations.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you. Next is the chairman's report. I don't have anything tonight. The county manager's report, Mr. Sims, you don't have anything? Thank you, sir. Next is number 7, unfinished business. Approval of professional service agreement, RFP 2213B. Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're bringing this item back before the board for consideration for the consultant services. We did have questions at the last meeting. We provided the information. Our finance director is here again to answer any questions.
Guys, let's take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this time I'd like to make a motion to approve Professional Services Agreement RFP 22-13B, ARPA Consulting Services for Oversight and Compliance for Parametrics LLC for ARPA Consultant, cost not to exceed $420,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please? Can I get a second, please?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. In a discussion. Commissioner Sanders.
I just received some information that I had no idea was the issue when the resident just came up and said that this company was not the lowest bid and there were 4 others that were lowest bid that can put us in litigation. That's kind of hard for me to actually touch that. And we've been saying this was the lowest bid contractor. So that now the vendors, now that's been put out there, the vendors are going to hear that. The other thing is, and I think I expressed that to my constituents, and I know y'all, my colleagues, and y'all receive a lot of emails from me coming from NACO. There are many counties here in the state of Georgia, even those next door to us, who did not hire a consultant because they felt it was a waste of money. They did a lot of their work in-house, or they hired, because with these ARPA dollars, you can create a department. You can use these funds to hire people putting work back in the county, having jobs in our county, and hire professional finance people to manage these funds. Clayton County did it, various counties did it, and also we just came from Colorado. They actually hired a department, and they kept the department on site for outreach, checks and balances, and they were able to use it. It's a blessing that we received these ARPA dollars because we can create infrastructure within our county and make departments so we can have this in place, not just for ARPA, but for various things that are going forward. So hiring a consultant for 3 to 6 months or possibly a year, and also in that contract it says that it renews automatically every year, it's kind of a waste of dollars. At first I was on board until I spoke to a lot of counties in Atlanta metro area who did not use a consultant. They hired people or they utilized in-house staff to save money and have those funds go back into the community. And the other piece is litigation. If this is not the lowest bid, and then we've been saying it's been the lowest bid and we're not doing it based on our process, from what I heard, maybe we can check on that. I haven't seen the document. We might want to look at that.
Commissioner Calvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in response to Commissioner Sanders, I'm a little leery when other counties are doing something because everybody in the metro area for years, and I've been in government for years, I always get in trouble with federal funds, so I don't like to follow what they do. Yeah. I do think $420,000 is a lot of money to pay on this, so let me ask 2 questions. Jarvis, are you okay with this bid as it went out?
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner. And if I can also address one of the comments from Commissioner Sanders. Yes, you're correct where some of the other counties are having in-house, but what they're actually doing, they're utilizing their entire amount of their ARPA funding to address in-house needs. So that's why they're not hiring outside consultants. Fayette County, for example, they're utilizing theirs to address infrastructure needs, the entire amount. So if that's the will of the body, you know, we had suggested that we wanted to address some of our capital needs here in our county. That's going to be the next ask, but that's why some of the other counties are not utilizing consultants. As far as the comment about the lowest bidder, we have our finance director here that can address that matter.
Well, guys, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Go ahead and ask your other question first.
We don't necessarily hire the lowest bidder every time, we hire the best.
That's
bidder.
correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I guess my other question would be to Patrick, hiring a consultant will take the politics out of this, and basically insulate the board of commissioners. Would you think that? Where's Patrick at?
I'm over here. So I think you're surrounded. You got nowhere to go. We got you surrounded. I would agree with that. I would also point out that the consultant, unlike Jarvis's staff and myself, will have, he's equipped to do this. This is what they do. So with Jarvis's staff and myself, we're shifting gears into a grant management role that isn't really what any of us do. So, and I would add also that with the dollar amount, the $420,000, we've discussed this a lot, and Jarvis might expand on it, but that's an up to amount. It's going to work a lot like your project management contract works, where when the consultant is asked to perform a specific service, this board will authorize that specific service, and there'll be a dollar figure that accompanies it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Just to expound on Commissioner Cowan's comment, those individuals that use their own in-house were awarded at NACO, so it is approved by the federal government Treasury to do the in-house. And in regards to, that's what I said, in regards to infrastructure, not capital improvements, what I was speaking on. We can actually utilize these funds to better our county. I'm not talking about roads or whatever and so forth. I'm talking about hiring the staff that we need. We don't have anything in this county for checks and balances. Who checks behind the checker? Nobody. As the resident just mentioned, we don't have that in this county, and other counties do have that. And I've talked to the finance directors at the other county. That was one reason why I did the research. And I asked those questions to those individuals. And Adams County, Colorado was one of the main examples at the county, at the actual convention. They had an in-house, did all of their things in-house and saved money. Conyers next door was just awarded an award for having the best ARPA detailed administration by doing it in-house. It's even in the paper where they saved $300,000 by doing it in-house, and they're utilizing them as the example of doing ARPA. We have these people next door who are award-winning with ARPA, and we have not reached out to them.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, C. But first of all, just please, if this is for forgiving being a little late. Sometimes it used to be I'd be so happy to get here. I used to run out the door about 30 minutes before time and get here way ahead of time. And now most of the time I kind of dread getting here. But nevertheless, I asked for it, and I continue to ask that citizens support me, and hopefully I remain in this particular role. The question that I want to ask, and maybe it probably already have been asked, but I just wasn't here to hear the answer, was that there's the people that we're going to hire, the consultants. Are they managing the commission portion of the author funds, or they mentioned another portion of it? Because I was just, when I left, I was more confused because all of a sudden it had changed. And so I guess this is to Patrick. Then I have one other question.
You want me? The proposal, as I understand it, would be for them to administer all of the ARPA funds that have not yet been allocated and spent. If I'm wrong about that, Mr. Sims, let me know.
That's correct, but also taking into consideration that the commissioners have already identified their particular projects and ensuring that those projects are in compliance with federal rules, then it shouldn't be any problem. But all the projects will go before the consultants, so we can ensure that at the end of the day, we're not held where we have unallowable expenses and then the county is having to pay for that.
Absolutely. And if my memory serves me right, at the last meeting that we had, there was discussion about the author fund that already had been spent I think, to the mental health facility and to the healing helpers. I think about, was it 700? Hit me out if you would, county manager. I think it was 600,000 to the healing helpers, and the other, I think it was about 400,000 to the viewpoint. Thank you. The viewpoint, and I think we learned at that particular meeting that the money that already had been spent for that. So I guess I'm referring this to legal, Patrick, is that how do you get the information, the same information that you are asking us for now, since it's changed, or how you getting that particular information from them? Because I'm just a firm believer that I like to treat people somewhat the same. And it seems like we start doing it one way, and then we all over into something different. Then I have one follow-up question, Mr. C, and then I'll be through.
So if you and the rest of the board will recall, Mr. Sims and I both urged the board not to award those funds that night. We urged the board to slow down and give us an opportunity to do all of that work beforehand. So we were left scrambling a little bit, and we were able to assemble together the information that we felt was necessary before the funds were distributed.
Thank you for that. But if my memory serves me, I'm not trying to go into a debate about this. I think, and I was just, I probably did a little sidebar to Commissioner Sanders. The county manager was not here. You or Mr. Patrick giving us that particular advice. You said that we could do it. And if I may finish,
yeah.
You said it was all right at that particular time. What I'm saying was, at the same time, I had gave a list of all my author funding, had made sure every commissioner got it, and it was supposed to be, like he other times, supposed to have been addressed as soon as possible by the author fund committee, and it never was. And now I find myself having to have my constituents and the peoples prolong about getting help out into the community. And just let me just say to you what, and why I can't understand why it's so complicated. We know that there's a lot of food insecurities in Newton County. In fact, if you pass over on Emory Street, 36 in town, you see First Baptist, if I'm not mistaken, and you see a big long line of cars, and there'd be a lot of people up there just trying to get a meal, just to get a box of food, which they only get once a month. And all I'm asking, what's so complicated about giving money to already established food banks out of District 4, like St. Paul, and other churches here in town, which I can't just think of them right off the top of my head, who already have established food bank, giving them money to supply, fill up their food banks so they can continue to distribute food to the people who needs it. I don't see why it's so complicated. Now I could see maybe if I was saying I was going to build something over at Nelson Heights, or ask for a shed, it might take you a year and a half or 2 years, but just to give a few dollars, $10,000, $5,000 to the churches here in town, for people to give them food, and we got to hire a consultant to do that, I don't see why is it that's so complicated about helping people who need. I didn't see why it was so long just to give people a little bit of help on their mortgage and rent payments, the $700,000, but but why are we somewhat, in my opinion, and I take the blame, whatever it may be, are we punishing people just for trying to survive in hard times? Why are we? That should be a no-brainer to me. And and there are times that I think we need a second opinion. And this is one of the times that I think that we need it. And I just like to thank Commissioner Sanders for going to those conventions. I've been to several myself a long time ago. And it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of good ideas that come out of that. And then I stopped trying to, just a little bit of money was about 20,000, we got the other 11,000 something, 20 million, or 21 million. Then I stopped fussing about it, and let's get it out to the people who need it. or do the stuff that that needs to be done. So that's about all I got to say, Mr. C.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Making a comment on the discussion whether or not we should have higher staff or higher employees or versus a consultant. Couple different things. One, I know for the last two budget cycles, this particular board has had an issue with the amount of personnel that we've already have in place. And it has been stated that we are personnel heavy and that we need to cut back on staff. So I guess it's confusing to me to know that these last two budget cycles that we've gone through, we've wanted to cut staff, but now all of a sudden, now we want to hire more staff. So that's the first thing that confuses me. The second thing is when you actually hire staff, you're not only hiring them with a salary, it also comes with benefits. So you gotta add that as well. So there's a possibility that it may even exceed, depending on how many we would have to hire, the amount that we've already budgeted for that in itself. And the last point is, these funds are to be spent by 2026. So if we hire 2026, so if we hire staff, then what do we do after 2026 with the staff that we've actually hired? Do we terminate them, or do we find something else for them to do? So I think when you really look at the overall scope of this discussion, really having a consultant in place that is a subject matter expert that can really help guide this board, who are not subject matter experts, guide our staff who are not subject matter experts in really utilizing these federal dollars and putting them in place where they need to be is best. I'm okay with getting examples from other counties, but sometimes we have to step up to the plate as leaders and think for ourselves. And we have to see what is best for us versus what is best for another county. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Edwards. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure we have some perspective here. I believe it was about 10 months ago, our former county manager was set to issue an RFP for a consultant. Maybe we did issue an RFP, I don't recall. And we beat that down. We said, no, we don't have time for a consultant. So fast forward 6 or 7 months, I guess when you go back 3, 4, 5 months ago, we decided we did want a consultant. So we did the necessary paperwork, my timeline may be a little off, did the necessary paperwork to get that particular position put in place, and now we don't want it again. So we've come full circle. And as far as hiring staff, you're talking about probably 6 months, I would guess. 6 months to hire staff, and then they're here doing what afterwards, and I'm not into expanding government, so only necessary positions, but I'm just not into that, so personally. But so you're looking, and I heard Commissioners Henderson say, our timelines are getting long, and we've been doing this a year probably, so you're talking about extending it another 6 months with an in-house staff hiring, and our consultant, we're poised to hire a consultant. So I'm ready to move forward with the consultant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for a motion. Second, Commissioner. I'm gonna give you opportunity to make a comment, but I'm just letting the board know I'm getting ready to ask for a motion. So go ahead. Oh, you made that? I'm about to call for the vote. Go ahead.
I just want to make a correction. No one on this board wanted to get rid of employees. We were talking about the raises, so no one said anything about get rid of employees. We were speaking on recession, and hopefully we wouldn't have to get rid of employees if we're in recession, giving them raises and COLA at the same time. So let's make that correction. No one on this board stated that, but I'm glad he said that question about hiring of employees. This is $500,000. If you're hiring 2 to 3 employees, do you know how long $500,000 will last for somebody paying them with benefits, $50,000 or $55,000? It will last a long time. And with our population growing here in Newton County, as you can see from our census, it grew, and our budget grew, we can handle those employees after the fact, and we don't have a check and balance department. As the resident just stated, we don't even have a purchasing department. So those employees can go back into purchasing because we got rid of the purchasing department, and you have our finance director over purchasing and finance, which is an issue. So that's where it can come into play, where we have we can put that in place. So there is not an issue. Now, our general budget is $80 to $90 million. So you saying the county can't handle $20 million? That's a problem. That says something about Newton County.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. This will be just really brief. I think last time the question was asked, and was asked by Commissioner Sanders, and maybe she can make sure that I get this exact way she had asked this question. Was anybody on that consultant, were they in the can to anybody, I guess, on the board, or how did you state that? Do you remember that? Yes, ma'am.
I think my question was last meeting, does anybody on the board, appointed staff, or anybody know or have worked with the consultant? Because the consultant is in a local area out of Alpharetta. So I was wondering, did anybody on this board, staff, anybody, appointed attorneys, knew the consultant or ever have worked with the consultant? And I don't think only person that answered was Brittany. Nobody answered the question.
Guys, thank you for that discussion. I am calling for the vote now. All in favor? All opposed? It passed 3-1, one extension. You want to state your reason?
Yes, because I was coming to do it when I think the vote had been made, and I was not told it. Didn't told me what the motion was. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, 7A, request to approve the FY 2023 SPLOST intergovernmental agreement. You gonna take that, or you want Aaron? Mr. Myers, you wanna take that for us?
Hey, Commissioners. So we are at the end of the SPLOST journey, at least as far as the board is concerned. So as it stands, the SPLOST IGA has incorporated the project list that this board decided on, and it is set at a allocation of revenues at 78% to the county, 22% for the city, and that will cover for the entire life of the SPLOST. There's no accelerated amount to the cities at the end of it. The IGA has been approved. It's gone through review by bond counsel. The city of Covington has approved it as well, and it's our recommendation that the board adopt this resolution and adopt the SPLOST IGA.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, sir. I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Cowan?
David, will this require any bonding for some projects?
Yes. And Brittany may help me out here. The current project list that the county has, does it require bonding to get there? The bond interest is built into the cost of the projects. So for example, if you turn to page 2, the first line, administrative building reutilization, on page 2, that number is a little bit different than what was on your previous project list, because the previous project list had the debt servicing as a separate project. Working with bond counsel, they recommended that we roll the bonded cost into each individual project. So we just did that on a pro rata basis. So you'll notice the numbers are a little bit different on this, but yeah, bond financing is going to be used.
So the bonding will allow us to get some immediate projects done.
That is correct.
Wait on the returns to come in, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and so this IGA doesn't require any particular project to be bonded, you can make that decision at a later date. So that'll be an issue that'll be brought back up probably about the time that we're issuing the bonds. We'll have to decide which projects are going first.
And the referendum, if approved, will authorize the issuance of the bonds up to that maximum amount. This board can then decide whether or not to issue any bonds or borrow any money, and if so, how much up to that amount. So you're not locked in to, what's the maximum amount of the bonds?
24,500,000 is what we've.
You're not locked into borrowing that much money, but you're assuming the referendum passes,
So it's
you're
basically
authorized
the
to.
same debt for us.
That's right.
Commissioner Henderson?
Do I need to restate the motion to include the bonding, or is?
No, you good.
Yep, so all of that language is included in the IGA, and the resolution that you have incorporates that IGA into it.
Any more discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. I think you are next too. FY 2023 SPLOST referendum, Aaron?
Yes, sir. So the next item before you, this is the resolution where the board actually imposes the tax and calls the election. So this resolution, it incorporates the project list, it incorporates the allocation of funds from the IGA, it authorizes the issuance of up to $24,900,000 in debt, and it authorizes the Board of Elections to go out and issue the call of the election, to run the ads that need to be taken. It provides the sample ballot language that will be used for this SPLOST election. So what this resolution is doing, now that you have an IGA in place, you can call for a 6-year SPLOST, and this resolution simply authorizes that election to go forward.
Thank you. I seek a motion, guys.
So second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Calvin. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
I have a question for our project manager. I see him in the back. I have questions in regards to the projects that are being placed on the referendum. He wasn't here last time to be able to answer those questions, so I just wanted some answers in regards to the projects.
Good evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for your time. The West Side Park was allocated $3 billion, and during the SPLOST presentation, which was recorded and I was there, the senior services and the West Side Park were presented together on the same link. And as we know, in 2022, $3 million is not enough to build a park and purchase land and design and everything. So is senior services going to be partnering with that project? If so, who's paying for the land?
So it's my understanding that the way the senior services allocation in this list is it gives them enough monies for them to either co-locate or basically be located somewhere else. And that'll be a process that we'll go through with that particular project.
Okay, and I have one more question. It's in regards to the west side, not aquatic center and water park. When they had the actual meeting, it was stating that the citizens were paying the amount for the land, and then an investor was coming to take over. Is that the same thing, or everything is going to be a part of the county? Because these questions came to me, so don't come from me, because the questions came to me from the citizens because they saw the SPLOST meeting, and they were there at the SPLOST meeting saying that economic development was taking over, and the $6 million was to acquire the land. So they asked this question to me to find out what is occurring with that, because they didn't want their tax dollars going towards that. So these are questions coming from citizens, residents.
So the original request for $6 million, which was listed under the economic development, was an investment from the county to put in infrastructure that would then entice a private sector company or developer to come in and to develop that facility. But that has not.
So is that
did not make the list.
So the $5 million is just to build a water park for Newton County, because that's what the residents were asking me in my town. So is it just for Newton County, an investor coming in? So no investors
No,
coming in?
no investors.
Okay.
This would be just for, this would be under a Parks and Recreation Department project, like the rest of them that we're doing with them.
Okay, that was all my question.
Sorry.
And that's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passed 5-0. Thank you so much. Next, we have the consent agenda. Tonight we have a appointment to DFACS Board, Mr. Al Miller. Are you here tonight? Al Miller. He's not here. We always like to recognize those that are willing to serve for their community, so we want to thank him for his service. He's taking on that responsibility. Commissioners, I seek a motion of approval, please.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson?
Or the minutes are part of the consent agenda? The minutes?
I didn't hear you say it again.
Or the minutes are part of the consent
Yes.
agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that when we had changed the agenda last meeting, that and we voted for and approved for the was it $150,000 of improvements over at Nelson Heights, that those minutes are in the consent agenda.
It's in the minutes.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Pass 5-0. Next is item number 9, new business. We're having a public hearing tonight with the NSP. You want to come on up, sir?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, good evening. I apologize, I don't think we're going to have the presentation on the screen, but there are copies on the table there if the public wants to follow along. And there should be copies in your board books for the commissioners. So I'm going to try to move at a steady pace because there is a decent amount of information to go over, but if there are any questions or I'm not explaining something clearly, please let me know. So on slide 2, just a summary of what we're going to talk about. We'll look at what NSP is. I know for some of you, we've talked about that before, but that may be kind of new for others. We'll talk about how the program was structured here in the county and what we accomplished. We'll do a high-level look at the finances of the program, how much funding we were allocated, how much was used, what it was used on.
It's on page 43, excuse me, 48. I'm sorry, Scott. It's on page 48 for the commissioners. Sorry, now go ahead. Sorry.
During the length of the program, we've been submitting quarterly reports to the Department of Community Affairs, giving them updates on what we've been doing. We submitted our final quarterly report in June, and part of the requirements is that we spend some time looking specifically at that and what it contains. So we'll spend a moment reviewing that. Then we'll talk about the phase of the grant that we're in right now, which is called Closeout. I really wish they had picked a different name because Closeout makes it sound like we are finishing, we're wrapping things up, and that is definitely not the case. We will continue to have responsibilities and obligations with this grant for quite some time in the future, but what it does mean is we're not going to spend any further funds. And so we'll talk about Closeout, and then we'll also talk about what happens after Closeout or post-Closeout, as I've put it here. And then finally, once we've reviewed all this information, we'll have a time where the public can make comments or ask questions if they so choose. So the Neighborhood Stabilization Program was created by Congress in 2008 as part of their response to the foreclosure crisis that was occurring at the time. The bulk of the funding was intended to be provided to local governments to purchase foreclosed homes, repair them if necessary, bring them back up to code, make them livable, and then sell those properties to families that met certain income requirements. And that was what we spent the bulk of our funding on here in the county, but we also used about $500,000 to purchase some land to build a public park in the Fairview Estates community. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that in a moment. So you'll see on slide 3, there's a breakdown, again, a very high-level breakdown of how the funding was used for the park between land acquisition, construction, and equipment. Again, it was right at $500,000. For housing, between acquisition and rehabilitation, it was about $1.4 million, and then a little over $100,000 for administrative costs, such as legal fees and working with consultants and that sort of thing. So on slide 4, and again, for anyone in the audience, there are copies at that table if you'd like to be following along with us. The Fairview Community Park was dedicated in 2011. This was what is called a passive park, so no organized activities or anything like that. It's a playground, a pavilion with some picnic tables, a walking trail, a large open space just for kind of a play area, that sort of thing. And then we did a very small parking area as well. But no organized activities or anything like that. Then for the housing component, we did bring in a partner, someone who was familiar with administering federal grants and also familiar with housing programs, because we really had no one on staff with that level of experience. Our original partner, this is a little bit of a mouthful, was the Independent Educational Community Development Group, or IECDG. They were a nonprofit out of Conyers. They purchased 12 homes for us and sold 5 of them. Unfortunately, over time, there were some issues with their performance. They weren't always producing the correct documentation on the first attempt. We had to go back and seek supplements. They lost some staff, which meant things were taking longer than they really should have. And so I want to say around 2012 maybe, we mutually agreed that it was time to part ways. And so we moved to a second partner, which was our local Habitat for Humanity affiliate, and they finished the housing component by selling the remaining 7 homes. And so you can see on the last line, sort of a summary: 12 homes purchased, 12 sold, and then it talks about 5 homes having completed their affordability period. And that's an important term I want to make sure everybody understands. So the way Congress structured the grant was most of the money had to be spent to benefit families that made 120% or less of the area median income. And then a quarter of the funds had to benefit families that made 50% or less than area median income. Given those parameters and the fact that we had to make the properties affordable to those families, meaning the mortgages could not cost more than 30% of their income, it was clear that the mortgages would not pay for the total cost of what we put into the properties. And so the fair market value might be here, what the families could pay might be here. And that was how Congress designed, they kind of built in a loss, so to speak. The problem was, what they didn't want was for a family to buy the home at this cost and then turn right around and sell it for this amount. And so to put protection into the program, they created what's called an affordability period. And so this was a length of time, and it varied depending on how much of a subsidy the family received. It might be 5 years up to 20 years, but you had to own and occupy your home for that entire time. And if you did sell the home within that affordability period, there were provisions to capture a prorated amount of that subsidy so that people weren't benefiting beyond what the program intended. Does that make sense? Because we're still we have homes in the affordability period now. I want to make sure everybody understands what that is. I'm flipping over to page 5 again, just looking at big picture financial aspects. We were originally awarded about $1.7 million. If you skip down to line 3, it says we used about $2.1 million. Well, where did that other funding come from? Again, the way the program was structured is when we sold the homes and we received a check from the family at the closing, they would have gone to a lender, received a mortgage, and brought a check, just like a normal, typical closing would occur. That money was we were allowed to recycle that into the program and use it to buy another house. And so that was called program income. We had about another $465,000 through program income. And we've been receiving program income all along from Habitat because their process was a little different. With Habitat, they are the lender. They issue the mortgage, so to speak, themselves, a no interest loan for the families, which is another benefit for the families that were able to work with Habitat when the other families who went to a traditional lender had to pay interest on the mortgage. The Habitat families did not, making it even more affordable. But they're paying those mortgages back over 30 years. So we still have, and will have families paying those mortgages back for a significant amount of time. Habitat collects those payments and then twice a year submits that payment to us, and that becomes program income. So again, I'm covering a lot of ground pretty quickly. I just want to make sure there's no questions. Are you? Yeah, no, we're going to let you finish. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and let you finish and then I get to the next question. Okay. All right. Thank you, Waka, for making that happen. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. There we go. So in your packets, you should also have a copy, it's 3 pages, of the final quarterly progress report. Again, that was issued to the Department of Community Affairs. I skipped something that was important. So Congress created NSP, assigned the responsibility for administering the program to HUD at the federal level, but our funding came through the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. So when we talk about reporting and oversight of our program, typically going to talk about DCA, because that's who we were responsible to. That's where our funding came from. So I don't think DCA could have made this form any more confusing. You'll see in column A, there's these seemingly random codes. I'll try to explain those as best I can. The first two, the O1-B, that's property acquisition. So that would include both the housing and, I believe, a portion of the park land. The reason there's 2 line items for that, the -H and the -I, that goes back to the fact that most of the all the funding had to benefit families at 120% area median income. That's the -I line. But then 25% had to benefit 50%. That's the -H line. So for most of the ways we spent the money, you'll see the funding broken up into 2 parts like that. The third line item is the public facilities. So that was funding that went towards the construction of the park. The next 2 items that have no funding assigned to them, those were for down payment assistance. The board at the time decided not to pursue funding for that particular use, so we didn't have money allocated to that. The The next two are for rehabilitation of the houses, and then the last line item is administration. And if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that 100% indicates we used all of the treasury funding that we had been allocated. So by the end of the grant, we used all the funding that had been allocated. The other two pages, just very quickly, there's space for a very short narrative of what happened in the 3-month period that the quarterly report covers. There really, at this point, was no activity because we were in the closeout period. We weren't doing anything in addition to what had already been done, so there's very little text there. And then the final page is really just a summary overview of the entire project. The key things to look at there, kind of in the middle of the page, the housing accomplishments. It shows 12 units acquired, 12 rehabilitated, 12 sold. So again, we did 53 of those reports, and they all look very similar to this, but if there's any questions, I guess we'll hold them to the end, but I'm happy to go over those.
Any questions, Commissioner? Commissioner Sanders?
I'm kind of happy this is on the agenda because this has been a huge topic in District 3. You mentioned actually twice, no organized activity. Was this voted on by the board when this was put in place? And the reason why I'm asking that question, because you have residents that live in the subdivision, which I understand, their livelihood hindered. Then you have Newton County, who pays to maintain this park. Just this year, we spent $400,000 maintaining this park. Yeah, the benches, the residents wanted the trees cut, the residents wanted various things up, they wanted lights up, and we spent $400 a month on the lights. So you have now citizens saying, I paid to maintain this park, and I'm hearing no organized activity. They come to me, I've had some asked about doing activities there, Easter egg hunts, and they were told no, but they paid for this park out of their tax dollars to maintain it. So did the citizens, the board, I don't know if you guys were here in 2000, I don't think anybody was here in 2008 in the recession. I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm sorry. Did this board vote that there is no organized activity on a public park that the taxpayers pay to maintain?
So, a little history. When the project was first proposed, the idea was to do organized activities. There were going to be basketball courts, I believe, and things like that. The community at the time was not in favor of that. They wanted something simpler and smaller, and that's how we wound up with the passive park. The board, I don't know that they ever explicitly voted to say there would never be organized activities, but the way the park was designed, it wasn't intended to have, Parks and Rec do anything along those lines. I don't think anyone at the time would have objected to an Easter egg hunt. I think when I say no organized activity, well, I can't speak, at the time, that wasn't what was intended when we said no organized activity. It was more no rec leagues and such as that. But I don't think there's anything that the board explicitly said there would never be organized activity. It was just that was what the community wanted at the time.
And you probably can't answer this question, but you may can because you was here during that time. I don't understand why the board didn't offer, once they organized an HOA, offer to the HOA to purchase the land so it wouldn't be an issue and a burden on the county. Because I've even spoken to our county manager. I've had people approach me about purchasing the land or the HOA or offer them the land, because you have 12 acres of land that the county owned, is maintaining, paying for. As I just stated, this year alone, we spent $400,000 maintaining that park, cutting trees, putting up lights, as well as taking out the benches and replacing the benches. We just put in a new playground for them. And so now we're telling the taxpayers of Newton County they can't have an event or they can't go to this property. And I completely understand the residents of Fairview Estates. Believe me, if I had a home in there, I probably would be fighting and say, I don't want a parking side of it, but looking at the side of the taxpayers who don't live in Fairview Estates are saying, why can't we utilize this property? We pay for it, we own it, why can't we put certain things on it? So that's probably something, Mr. County Manager, you may have to look into, because that's an issue with the taxpayers as well as an issue with the residents. So we got to figure this thing out. So has there been an offer to the HOA to pay for this? Just go ahead and let them purchase the land?
I'm not aware of any discussion like that. I think one thing that needs to be mentioned at this point is the one stipulation that follows that property from NSP is if the county ever transfers it into ownership of any other entity, we have to pay back what NSP put into the project.
And I wish we would look into this more in detail before we move forward with this, because now you have taxpayers paying for property they cannot even utilize.
Commissioner
Henderson. Thank you, Ms. C. If my memory serves me right, thinking back that for it was NSP was a good program. It was a program where there was a lot of foreclosures in the county, and what the objective was to kind of stop some of the bleed and purchase some of those homes and resell them back to the citizens reasonably, especially to the ones who maybe couldn't afford them. We came into all kind of issues. The first issue was that they were using contractors. The contractors, guess what they did? They didn't pay the contractors. I guess the first organization, we were stuck with paying those bills. And it was a lot of extra money, extra stuff that we had to do over that way. The way I believe the NSP program was supposed to work, we were supposed to rehabilitate, get somebody, rehabilitate them, or get someone else to rehabilitate them, sell them. And then we'll move on into the county and maybe to other underserved areas and do the exact same thing. But we end up getting stuck over there. We end up getting stuck over there with the lots that you just make reference to. The lots was something was in foreclosure that we had to assume them to as well under that program. And typically, what we used to do, we may not do it quite as much now, we would follow the lead of the commissioner. And Commissioner Schultz, and if whatever you end up with and what you got now, it was following her lead. Nobody knows. Said, I'm gonna go over in District 5 and tell Running what to do, or I'm gonna go over in District 3 and tell the commission what to do, or we're gonna try to take this from that. We let the commissioner kind of lead the way, and the next commissioner, what you end up with is where the other commissioner kind of left off, and it really has been a headache for me over these years, having to think about and continue spending taxpayers' money on that project for years and years, and it seems like it's not at an end. He said close out, but it's not a closeout. You're still gonna have to deal with it for a time, for years to come. Thank you, Mr. C.
Thank you. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and we're gonna open it up for a public hearing. I'm gonna allow 10 minutes for those that wanna make comments about the NSP, a neighborhood stabilization program.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I do have a couple more pages to go over, and it's unless we have to finish.
No, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I will do this as quickly as I can. So I think page 7 of the handout, I won't go through all of these items. I just wanted to list those to show, to give a sense of what we've been doing during closeout for the last couple of years, and then a sense of what comes next. The most important thing is completing the public hearing tonight, and then we'll ask for authorization for the chairman to sign one form. That's key to continuing. But what I really wanted to cover is the post-closeout, which is here on page 8. So we'll continue to have properties in the affordability periods, as I mentioned. That will go through September of 2030. We'll continue to process the program income payments from Habitat. The key thing I want to point out here is that for a time, Habitat the homeowners have been behind in paying Habitat. There's been some families that were struggling, things that could happen to anyone. And so Habitat has been behind in paying the county. We've talked to DCA. They said that's fine as long as everything gets caught up by the end of the program, but this gives Habitat the flexibility not to have to foreclose or something like that. The good news is I talked to our contact at Habitat on Friday. All the families except for one have caught up. Unfortunately, the one family that is not caught up is significantly behind, but we sent them information about the ARPA funding, and they did apply for that, so we're hopeful that will benefit them. I don't think they've had a decision yet. But the Habitat mortgages will run until the year 2045. And so that's why I said we will still be working with NSP, although at a much reduced pace. We'll still be working with NSP for a number of years in the future. And then, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. The final thing I wanted to cover, just to make sure everyone is aware, and this is certainly not to cause undue alarm, but I think we have to recognize it is a possibility. As I said, there is one family that is significantly behind. It looks like they will have some opportunities to catch up, but I think we have to recognize that with there being 20 plus years and many families still paying those mortgages, and things can happen to anyone, there is the possibility of Habitat having to foreclose, and they will do everything they can not to do that. But there may come a time when that is just the last resort. Unfortunately, it is unclear what happens if they do have to foreclose. The applicable paperwork was done a little bit differently for each property, so it's not like we can just pick an example and say this is what happens. But of course, when a foreclosure happens, the county would still be responsible to DCA for the balance of the mortgage. What should happen is we'd have an asset, the property, that would help to offset that balance. But the property is not going to be owned by us, it's going to be owned by Habitat on our behalf. It's not clear if it has to be sold through the NSP program again. Would that start a whole new affordability period and a whole new 30-year mortgage? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and we've talked to the attorneys at Gerard and Davis, and their recommendation was don't pay us to analyze one property that may never get foreclosed on, and the information wouldn't be applicable to others. We don't want you to throw money away, so we're kind of just waiting to see if that happens, and then we'll get more information at that point. I didn't want that to be a surprise somewhere down the line. I want just to recognize that this could happen in any moment, and we'll just have to deal with it when that occurs.
Commissioner Henderson.
I just had a question and possible follow-up question. If somehow or another the ARPA funds could catch them up, would they be able to afford their payment from that point on, possibly until the end? I guess the end of the mortgage, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
So you're asking if they get
if
the ARPA fund?
We are helping families to a certain amount. I think, Commissioner, if I'm not mistaken, I'm referring to you because you don't read that whole our ARPA funding, especially paying mortgage payments. I think it's authorized to put to 2,000 or 3,000. Patrick, you can chime in if you would, please. And 2,000 or 3,000 that could help them get back on track. I hate to see anybody out, and I think it would be in my opinion, don't know who they are, don't care who they are.
Right.
We just want, we need for this thing to kind of come on to an end as far as for our taxpayers. If we could help them within the limits of what we're giving of several other people, because I've been down there, I've been down there with people and help them to catch their mortgage up if possible, depending on how much it is, and move them on forward, Yeah,
I am not familiar with how the ARPA funding works, what the eligible amounts are, and how that's determined. But if what the Habitat person, and I don't want to talk about amounts, I want to respect the privacy of the family, but what Habitat indicated is this would help to catch them up, but would probably not catch them completely up. But it would give them more flexibility for Habitat to say, okay, we've got time to let you deal with the things that they're dealing with.
Absolutely, okay. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that taking so long, but we are now ready to have the public hearing. This is not like a zoning public hearing. There's no speaking in favor or speaking against. It's just, do you have comments about the program, questions about the program? I will step aside and let anyone from the public.
Thank you, sir. It is approximately 8:07. We're going to open it up now for our public hearing tonight. If anyone want to make comments tonight, you may do so. We're going to have a 10-minute time limit tonight. If you would like to make comments, you may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone would like to make comments, please state your name, your address for the record, please.
We'll start with item C. How can the county be in business for their,
go ahead, sir.
well, real estate? How can they be real estate agents and all that? And using the taxpayers' money to build them, buy them houses, build them. Then when they, like you say, when they have to foreclosure, we lost all that money. So y'all can use the taxpayers' money to buy houses and rebuild them, which you did that one time before. And I understood that you lost your rear. So I thought you quit it. It's just like we lost all that money on that reservoir deal. And then y'all want to keep on splosh, adding on to splosh and all. That thing said wanted to vote for another penny to, no.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please? Anyone else would like to make comments? Anyone else? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Got it. Mr. Butler. Mr. Butler. Thank you. You want to present item number 9?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So there's one more form and one more page in your books. Looks like this. Georgia Department of Community Affairs at the top. Grant closeout certification. This is a form that we're required to submit to DCA as part of the closeout process. It would be signed by Chairman Baines. It essentially says two things. One, that we are affirming that we've completed all of our requirements as part of the grant. I could tell you that we have. We've already submitted the documentation to DCA. They have agreed. I'm not entirely sure why we have to sign another form stating this, but we've been audited many times. We've submitted all the quarterly reports, etc. So I'm very confident that we've finished our requirements. And then the second item is just that the financial information listed below there is accurate. So it reflects the treasury funds we were allocated and reflects the fact that we do not have any remaining funds on hand. We've returned a small portion of the funding that we did not use during the course of the grant. So for this, we do need a vote from the board as to whether or not Chairman can sign the form.
Thank you, sir. Let's take a motion, please. Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards. I get a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. It's a motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
Just one quick question. I heard you state that the mortgage that they're paying to Habitat, a check is given, correct me if I'm wrong, to the county, right? So where are these funds, maybe Jarvis, you can answer this question, once that money is given to the county, what are they being used for?
In the past, they were recycled into the program and used to buy other properties.
But the property's already purchased now, so where is that money going? Can somebody answer that question?
I'm saying, so in the past, the program income was used to purchase additional properties. So not the house that they're paying the mortgage on, but another house that would be sold to another family. At this point, because we're in closeout, that money will just get returned to DCA. We won't be able to use it for any additional projects.
So how long have we been receiving money from the mortgage? Was it the end date I saw was May 20, since May 2022?
No, we've been receiving payments from Habitat since 2015.
Until what's the end date?
Until about 2020.
2020.
Well, no, I apologize. We still will be receiving payments today and into the future until 2045.
Okay.
But we no longer can recycle the money to buy any additional properties.
Okay. So the money has been coming to the council. My question is what is it being used for if the properties, have we purchased property with this money? You stated it's to buy other properties. Am I correct? Just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to understand.
It was used in the past to buy additional properties. But at this point, because we're in closeout, we'll just return the money to DCA.
Okay. I got that far.
Okay.
But you stated that you were receiving funding, so you purchased the homes already in the beginning. So my question is, what has the money been used for if the homes were already purchased?
So we purchased the original homes through IECDG, and we received program income from those. Those were used to help buy some of the additional homes that wound up being sold by Habitat. The money that came from Habitat was not enough. Maybe this is probably where the confusion is, I apologize. The money from Habitat has not been enough to purchase another home. We had about $70,000 from them. That money was returned to DCA earlier this year. It wasn't enough to buy another house. We ran out of time to accumulate more funds, and so we just returned it to the program.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question.
I realized where I was taken, so sorry.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Next, discussion and consideration of objection to annexation. Patrick.
Yeah, that's me. Raka, can you put that? Okay, on the screen before you is a tax parcel map showing, highlighted in red, three parcels that the city of Covington wishes to annex. Now, the annexation includes also the parcel immediately to the south of the red parcels, which are 007911, then the parcel to the right of that one, 0096006. The property in purple is the existing city limits. So the city's noticed that there has been an application to annex the parcels highlighted in red and the parcel below to the right. I'm watching there, that parcel, and the one to the right of that parcel. The notice we received from the city of Covington informing us of the proposed annexation told us that the proposed annexation would be accompanied by a rezoning request to zone the property from its present zoning classification to the heavy industrial M2 zoning classification. Typically, when you get one of these, the city is annexing the property with its current zoning and will carry over the current zoning. And that's one of the bases, in fact, it's essentially the only basis that the county has to assert an objection to an annexation. In this instance, the zoning will change from the A, Newton County's agricultural zoning district, all of those properties, to the city of Covington's heavy industrial zoning classification. So what's happening is you're going from the least intensive zoning classification to the most intensive zoning classification. That suggests that the county has a basis for an objection if the county so chooses. One of the available reasons for the county to object to an annexation is a change in zoning to a more heavy, intensive, or dense use, and this is clearly a more intensive use of property. There are a couple of howevers, like there are in everything. The first however, and the one that's really important here, is however, you cannot object if the proposed zoning is consistent with your future land use map. That's the biggest thing we look for. And what you're looking at is your zoning is your future land use map, essentially with some other things overlaid on it. Those parcels are designated primarily as residential and agricultural future use on your future land use map. That one parcel, 00790009, that looks like a turtle shell, the smaller one south of the road, it's got a curved boundary on the north, up to the right, that little one. That little parcel is designated on the future land use map for manufacturing and industrial use. However, the rest of the parcels are designated for the rural, agricultural, residential use. But most importantly, if you see that blue print up there that says Flint Hill, that entire parcel of property is located in what you have called the Flint Hill character area. And I want to pull up some information that I'm going to read to you about the Flint Hill character area. The Flint Hill character area is limited to essentially agricultural and agricultural residential uses. Those are the only uses contemplated in the Flint Hill character area, and the reason for that, you can't quite see it, but just to the north of that parcel, and I don't think the photo, I did a screen capture, but just to the north of that parcel is a lake. It's one of your water drinking reservoirs. So the purpose for that limited development within this entire area is obviously to protect your water source from heavy intensive development. So this parcel of property probably does, and I say probably, and I'll explain that in a minute, probably does qualify for an opportunity, if this board so chooses, to object to the annexation. I say probably because, like so many other things that we deal with in city-county relationships, the laws is not quite as clear as we want it to be. Georgia law authorizes this body by majority vote to object to an annexation because a proposed change in zoning or land use, a proposed increase in density, and infrastructure demands related to the proposed change in zoning or land use. That appears to be, there must be both, I'm going to use the word offensive, an offensive change of zoning and an infrastructure demand related to the proposed change in zoning or land use. So we have not identified a specific infrastructure demand would be associated with this land use change. The road that you see, Flat Rock Road, that will go up the middle of the property and that portion of Gregory Road, once the property is bordered on both sides by the city, that becomes a city road. The city will become responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that road. You will be relieved of that burden. I don't know, simply because we weren't provided with the information of who provides water and sewer services to that area. The proposed rezoning contemplates essentially a large industrial warehouse manufacturing facility with large buildings scattered about throughout the project. So I expect there will be some significant infrastructure demands. I can't tell you as we sit here if those fall on you or fall on the city. I don't know that the development plans are that far along. So with that said, if this board desires to object to the proposed annexation and rezoning, you would adopt a resolution tonight. And I will read out what I would recommend that resolution to say. The procedure, what will happen next, is we will inform, if you elect to object, we will inform the City of Covington of your objection. The objection is then basically transmitted to the Department of Community Affairs. The Department of Community Affairs will impanel a panel of 5 arbitrators, and they will hear evidence. about the proposed annexation, and they'll make a ruling on whether or not this annexation should go forward or not go forward. Because your objection will be based primarily on change in zoning and land use, that panel is empowered, if they find it to be an appropriate objection, that panel would be empowered to impose zoning limits, zoning conditions, which would then become part of the deed records. It's an expensive, it's a time-consuming process, and it does require a substantial amount of work. It's essentially a mini lawsuit. So that's what's before you tonight. The question for you is whether or not you wish to object. If you don't want to object, you would simply make a motion not to object to the rezone or to the annexation. If you do want to make a motion to object, I am going to suggest to you what that motion should say. That motion would be a motion to object to the proposed annexation because it results in a material increase in burden on the county based upon the proposed change in zoning and land use, the proposed increase in density and the infrastructure demands related thereto, which significantly increase the net cost of the infrastructure to the county and which differs substantially from the existing land uses suggested for the property by the county's comprehensive land use plan. You don't have to repeat that. If that's the motion you want to make, you could say and make that motion. If it's seconded and approved, that would be the motion. We would then notify the city of that objection. There is always, just so you know, this is not an all or nothing. We either go all out war with the city or not. There is always the opportunity to have discussions, to work out whether there's conditions on the proposed land use or not. I don't know if you're in a position as we sit here today to evaluate a world of conditions. We did not have your zoning staff evaluate proposed conditions because we didn't have any. We did have your zoning staff evaluate the proposal as a whole, and they were able to determine for us that the proposed land use does differ substantially from the county's land use plan, and you're going from one end of the spectrum to another. You're going from the least intensive land use to the most intensive land use. So that's before the board. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about Commissioner Sanders?
Has it been mentioned what is the land going to be used for?
It'll be an industrial manufacturing park facility. So we don't know exactly who the users are. There is a site plan that I believe, I'm not sure it's included in your package or not. I believe it is. And I'm sorry, these pages aren't numbered. There is a proposed site plan. If I put it up there, would it show? Okay.
If you can just tell
there
us
is a proposed site plan that shows two phases. A phase one would consist of 6 buildings, an e-commerce facility, 3 warehousing facilities, and 2 manufacturing facilities, which would total 2,415,000 square feet under roof. Phase 2 would consist of 2 warehouse facilities, 1 manufacturing facility, which would be about 1,568,000 square feet under roof, which would be a total of just over 4 million square feet under roof, divided among 9 separate buildings. This rezoning before the county, before the city before this project is initiated because of the size and the scope of it, will go to the Department of Community Affairs for a development of regional impact analysis. Y'all have seen those before. It's where they analyze the use, they make recommendations for infrastructure improvements, and they may also make a recommendation as to whether or not the proposal is in the best interest of the state or not. They don't necessarily always make an evaluation as to the county.
It's already been done, right?
I have not seen the DRI report back. It's pending. The last I checked, it was pending. I've not seen the actual DRI report.
I think it's already been released.
Okay. It hasn't been released to us. We've not got it. I'll get it.
Okay.
But when we requested it, when we got this in, it had not been.
Okay.
At that point, it had not been done.
Commissioner Gower.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick, is it just those 3 lots, or you mentioned that 79011 was also included in this?
It is parcel 0079009, which is the 3 that are highlighted or outlined in red.
Right.
It is the parcel, let me just confirm, it's the parcel below as well. It is the parcel directly to the south, which is 0079011. Which is where the hand is, and then also on the south side of Gregory Road. And then it is also parcel 0096006, which is the parcel to the right on the south side of Gregory Road as well.
Okay, and the majority of the residential is the smaller lots down on this side, is that correct?
Those are residential parcels, and then further north, up Flat Rock Road,
There's some, yeah.
there's some up there as well. The remaining parcels appear to be large acreage tracts.
Okay, the majority of that land is rock. So, I mean, I understand want to do something with your property, but a lot of that is rock. I don't see a real, has the city of Covington's planning and zoning approved this yet?
No.
No.
They've yet to approve it.
Okay, has it gone to the city council yet?
No, the city council can't vote on it until they have to give us notice and provide us an opportunity to object.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Any more discussion?
One more question, maybe 2 more. Have they done you know if they've done a traffic study or anything?
I'm not aware of it. They would typically have to for a DRI.
Okay.
I have not seen it again. We were unable to get the DRI.
And the lot that you mentioned may have some impact on the reservoir?
Well, we don't know if it does or
We don't
doesn't,
know.
but it's in that character area which was
Correct.
established for the purpose of protecting the reservoir.
And that's something, if we agree with it, they'll have to deal with that. Right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Every property owner, when they develop, they are responsible for their water and the water that they're generating, and they'd be responsible for managing and handling their own stormwater, which is where, and there's going to be impervious surface limitations as well for them.
Okay.
Motion. Let me get a motion, please. Go ahead, Commissioner. Go ahead, sir. Sorry about that.
Thank you. It was just somewhat of a comment. I had worked for the city of Covington about 24 years. And that was part of my route. Going out reading those meters, and it's a lot of rocks over there. And so I really don't see nothing that it may be good for other than some possible warehouses in certain areas of those particular properties. And, I just think personally that's a good use for it. Thank you.
You seek a motion?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the annexation as requested.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan that we approve this, and a second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Yes. Commissioner Evans.
I just want to reiterate, Patrick, this is not consistent with our future land use map, correct?
That's correct.
It's not consistent with our character area map either, is that correct?
That's correct.
And on the banks of our drinking water, correct?
In the vicinity of.
I'm very familiar with that area.
Sure.
It's literally on the banks of our drinking water. So I can't support it. I'm sorry about it.
Any more discussion? Substitute motion? Commissioner
File the objection, I'd like a motion to object to using the objection that Mr. Patrick used.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been a substitute motion on the floor, by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason, that we object to this, annexation. Any discussion? Commissioner Cowell?
Honestly, I really need some time to think about this. That's a big impact on that community out there. And I mean, I think the plan is a good plan, but I really need to think that through a little more.
What?
I would ask you to table it.
So it's a substitute motion on the floor. Would you like to change that to a table, or?
If I could interject, we have to, under the current Georgia law, we have 45 days to object. I'm thinking out loud. The date of the notice was July 11th, which means we probably got it the 15th or the 16th. I don't know exactly what day we got it. We'll have to check the certified mail receipt. So we would have time to table this to August 17th, and you would still be within your time period to assert an objection. We can certainly get additional information and distribute to the board members. I do think we're okay on time.
Okay. I mean, it's up to Stan. He's got his...
All right, this is a matter of process, right? So if I withdraw my motion, it reverts back to
his motion, that's right.
And he'll enter a substitute motion to table.
He can make a motion to table.
I'll withdraw my last motion.
I would like to make a substitute motion to table this to have a little bit more time to do some more research on it and evaluate the impacts on the residential area.
Can I get a second? Second. It's been motioned that we table this by Commissioner Cowell and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? I do want to suggest to the board, as the county attorneys made everybody aware a while ago, we don't know who area of service that there is this. We don't know if we got county water lines over there in this. We don't have any of that information. So I suggest that we get in touch with, have our county manager get in touch with James Brown and see the landscape of what the county has already invested out there as an infrastructure. Also, just want to make everyone aware of that if you can. Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Stand table. Thank you. Next is item number 11, development of services, requesting approval of contract for Ross Associates. Ms. Shayna Applewhite is here tonight. You want to come on up?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Development Services is requesting approval of a contract for Ross Associates to complete an update to our impact fee update. It's a cost not to exceed $62,350. So you know the impact fees are some of what pays for our infrastructure, our roads, public facilities, and so on. And this update will let us know if we are indeed collecting what we should be collecting to cover the cost of these projects. This is why we would need to have this updated.
Thank you. Guys, I seek a motion, please.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Passes 5-0. Next is Recreation, requesting approval for Matrix Engineering Task Order. Jeff Prime is here tonight.
Good evening. So this is we have a task order contract with Matrix Engineering to provide material testing and geotechnical services for our projects. And this task order, in their contract, they have a threshold of $100,000 authorized back to the chairman and to the county manager to sign off on task orders. This particular task order pushes them above that threshold. So I might need some help, Patrick, in coming up with the motion, but our intent is to not only approve this task order tonight, but also to give us another leg of approvals back to the chairman and the county manager for these future task orders that we'll have.
So, the first thing I would say is that second part of your request is not on the agenda. I would suggest we might want to hold off on that so we don't have to do it on the agenda. But
okay, Randy had put it forward, so I thought she'd include it.
Sure. Yeah, all I'm seeing is the approval of this task order 12. Well, I suggest let's hold off and do it. Will that slow you down on anything immediately?
No, it won't slow us down as long as this one gets approved.
Yeah, approve this one.
Trying to keep it from having to come back.
Right. Let's approve this one, and then let's bring sort of the reset back at the next meeting. That'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that as well.
This particular one is to provide material testing for the Danny Dobbs skate park, which is under construction.
Okay. So we're doing one, and this is the one that's on the agenda tonight, guys.
That's right.
No confusion. I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? Jeff Bryan, can you come back for a second? Mr. Bryan, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. Well, I'm just trying. Are we testing the material?
Part of the quality control that we do for all of our projects, and they're required by state law, is that we do material testing for the concrete, compaction, all that kind of stuff. That's what this is doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Public Works requesting approval of contract with GDOT to oversee construction funding for CR 511 Brown Bridge Road. Chester is here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
I have several items tonight. I apologize for putting so many on the agenda, but the first one is the Yellow River Bridge replacement. The board has already approved the notice of award to the contractor, CMES, for $4.9 million, and GDOT's approved the award. They're also GDOT's been appointed by the federal government to oversee the funding of this project. And so the county is required, in order to get the 80% of the funds from the Federal Highway Administration, we have to sign a contract with GDOT. And the contract has an administrative fee of $20,000 that goes to GDOT, and we are committing to spending the $4.9 million for this project. So I'm requesting tonight that the board approve signing a contract with GDOT to administer this project and abide by all the rules and regulations in that contract that's required by Federal Highway.
And this is budgeted, is that correct?
It is in, we would be responsible for 80%, and it is in the SPLOST, the 2017 SPLOST.
Thank you, sir. I seek a motion, please. Can I get a second? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? Commissioner Calvin.
Thank you, Chester. Let me make sure I'm clear on something. Is item 13 and 14, and those two separate things? You were saying 4.9 million, that's on item 14.
Yes, sir. There were the two bridges with two contracts for each bridge. One's $4.9 million, and then one's the $8 million.
So yes, they are two separate things.
Yes,
They are two separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's deal with item 13 first.
All right.
Any more discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Now let's deal with item number 14.
The next item is, it deals with a contract with the construction contractor, CMES. And again, the county has approved the notice of award. At this time, it's time to sign the contract, the chairman to sign the contract with the construction contractor to begin construction. And it's for $4.9 million. We're responsible for 80%, the same thing we went over with the last item. The total cost to the county will be $979,179.01. And it's going to be paid out of the 2017 SPLOST fund.
Thank you, sir. I seek a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowell and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passed 5-0. Item number 15, sir.
The next item is a separate project. It's the intersection improvements at Harold Dobbs Road and Kroll Road. We're straightening out that intersection, preparing it for a traffic signal sometime in the future. And in order to do that, there are 5 parcels that we have to acquire for right-of-way. And I have those listed in the packet that you got. The total for the parcels is $135,370 to purchase those parcels. And our consultant, Atlas Technical Consultants, they have the options and agreements from the property owners. So I'm requesting that the board approve the purchase of right-of-way and easements for the parcels per the attached options and counteroffers.
Thank you. I seek a motion, please.
I'll make that motion to approve the purchase of right-of-way and easements for Kroll Road and Harold Dobbs Road.
Can I get a second, please? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowell and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
Chester, I'm aware that there's a home that's about to be built in this area, in this exact location. So I'm not sure what, I wish Shana was still here because I didn't go to the planning commission meeting to see if it passed or not. So is the developer going to pay a portion of this? Because they're going to be building homes in this section.
Yeah, the developer has designed their development and submitted site plans and has accommodated the proposed improvements that the county will be paying for. So the developer's not paying for those improvements. Those improvements are not being done for this development, they're for that area of the county at large.
I know, but where this is specified, this is where these homes are being built. So I'm curious, I wish Shane was still here. Were there any stipulations in that last planning commission meeting where they had to have easements or right-of-way and so forth? And I'm pretty sure there probably was some requirements by that planning commission. So that was my question: is the developer going to be taking some of this cost?
The county would be purchasing the right-of-way, and the county would be paying for the construction.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It passes 3-2. Thank you.
The next item is the project at Yellow River at Brown Bridge Road. And it's the same thing we talked about before. This one is for, let's see. I believe this one is for the contract with Wright Brothers Construction.
Yes, sir.
And so the total is $8,109,119.82. And I'm requesting that the board approve signing a contract with Wright Brothers to construct the bridge.
Thank you, sir. God, I'll seek a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the Wright Brothers, contract with Wright Brothers to construct bridge improvements at Brown Bridge Road over Yellow River.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chester, I should ask on the project before. This awarded project goes to it goes by the county's purchasing guidelines, right, to find this contract, correct?
Yes, sir. And federal highway guidelines.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you.
And the final item is the contract with GDOT for the same project, the $8.1 million project. GDOT is managing this project as well as far as the funding, and they're overseeing it, and they charge a fee of $20,000 that the county would have to pay. And so I'm requesting that the board approve the agreement with GDOT to include the administrative fee in order to proceed with construction of the Yellow River Bridge replacement project.
Just again, this is budgeted, is that correct?
It is to come out of the 2017 SPLOST, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Got to seek a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second, please? Second. Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next is item number 18. Discussion and consideration to approve an engagement letter for loss. I think this is Mr. Sims.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, after having discussions with our county attorney, he thought it would be best for us to have a consultant to assist our county with the loss negotiation. And Aaron is here to kind of go into details on how he thinks is best.
Hey, thank you again, Commissioners. Excuse me. So, LOST is, after SPLOST, it's the next intergovernmental agreement that we're going to have to reach between the county and the cities. And just for a quick primer on LOST, it is a 1% sales tax. The purpose of LOST is to ease property taxes. It's a substitute for property taxes. LOST it's not intended to be capital funds or to fund new projects. It's merely to provide property tax relief by substituting some property tax dollars with sales tax dollars. The law requires counties and cities to come together every 10 years and agree on a new loss distribution formula. And the statute provides several factors that the parties should consider. So one of those factors is population, but there's a lot of factors that go into this. The lost certificate has to be reached by the county and the cities by no later than December 31st of this year. And if the parties fail to reach an agreement on how the funds should be allocated, then the county will lose LOST until it's put to a referendum and the voters come up and have to vote for it again. So it's critical that we're able to go into this negotiation process with a good understanding of what those factors say about how the funds should be allocated between the city and the county. The consultant we identified, Eves Consulting Group, provides the service for a lot of counties in the state, several metropolitan counties and cities. I'm familiar with his work. He's provided some services for several of our other clients with respect to LOST. I believe he puts together a good product, and at the end, what you're going to have is it's going to be a report explaining here's how the county and the cities have been using SPLOST to date. This is what's changed since the last time you negotiated SPLOST. And based on these factors, This is a range for what the county should expect to get out of lost. And without a report like that, you're going to be asked to sit down with all of the leaders from the cities and negotiate allocation of the lost revenues. And you won't really have an idea of what you should be asking for. So this $15,000 proposal, put a report in your hands that will tell you exactly where you should be, and it will be a good tool in your tool belt when we get into those negotiations with the cities.
Thank you, sir. You guys will seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Is there an additional penny that is collected along with the splosh? I'm asking for my information purposes.
Yes, it is. It's currently being collected now. So right now, I believe Newton County collects a 7% sales tax. So one of those pennies is going to your splost. One of those pennies is currently going to lost. And you don't typically see when we do SPLOST, there's a project list. SPLOST is exciting because we know we're going to see something. Lost is more passive. It replaces property taxes. So if you don't get those pennies, then the county's going to have to raise property taxes.
Absolutely. And I guess this is to our interim county manager. How much of the lost taxes in this past budget did it go to alleviate some of the taxes for our citizens? And I'm just, you tell me, I understand what you're saying, but I'm trying to find out or get a number as far as our budget, how much of that money went into our budget to help our taxpayers.
That's a great question, Commissioner. Our finance director left early due to illness, but I'll be happy to get you the exact number tomorrow morning. I don't have the exact number, but we'll email it to you tomorrow morning. And thank you for that. So could you also get that to me and make that public, please? Because I think it's, I know for me it'll be very informational, and I'm sure for the citizen in the county it will be information quite too as well. It also is included in our budget that was approved, so it's actually online, but to get you the exact number, I'll be happy to get that to you tomorrow.
And I can give you a ballpark. It's the 1% lost applies to, I believe, the same transactions that a SPLOST would. So when we're considering the SPLOST at a penny, we were expecting about $18 million per year. Under the current loss distribution certificate, the county receives 75%. So the amount the county gets currently per year under lost is 75% of 18 million, which is, I think, around 15 million.
Good. Thank you. You might count a lawyer.
We'll have the exact number for you.
And Aaron, that's why it's important for us to have a consultant to make sure that we get those funds. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Well,
and that's why
if I may just one, Mr. Chair, if I may, those are the types of things doing budget time you need to kind of get out there, and so they can see, so the taxpayer can see, like myself, like all of us sitting up here who own property, especially on my house, we will see where we're getting some help or where we're not getting any help from. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So will each consulting services provide us with a recommendation or just overall informational framework?
He does provide a recommendation. So the recommendation will come in the form of a range. It will be, X% to X%. And it's a great report. It explains exactly which factors he looks at, why there could be some variation in the range. One of the, it could be contentious between counties and cities. I know it has been in some places. And so what this report does is it identifies those points of contention, explains what the city's perspective on that would be, and explains what the county's perspective on that would be. It really gives you the tools to negotiate with the city intelligently. Otherwise, you're just arguing about numbers without any context.
But he would not give an allocation recommendation, correct?
There would be, but it's in the form of a range. And you can go above or below that range, but he does give you a range, and he does a good job of explaining why that range is what it is. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but the loss certificate is in place for 10 years. So that's another reason why you want to be well informed before you go into it, because the decision you make is going to follow the county for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So to answer Commissioner Henderson's question about how much of your revenue comes from loss, I can't give you the dollar figure amount, but I was able to look at the 2021, the year ending July 1, 2021 financial report, and it's 16% of your general fund is generated by loss. So that was in the public information that was provided. So they'll have to get you
We
the
have the exact number.
Exact
I
number.
would like to emphasize what Aaron indicated. The purpose of us bringing this consultant before you all is the lasting impact of 10 years for our county. So we want to make sure we get it right now because it lasts for 10 years.
Yeah, and as part of the scope of work, if the board would like, Mr. Reeves will come in to your meeting one night, go through the report. I'm sure he would have slides, and he could answer all of your questions in detail as well. That's built into the price. There is a fixed rate, I believe it's $95 an hour, if you were to ask him to come to any mediation session as you start meeting with the cities. But the basic consulting services you're getting will result in a report and a presentation.
If I may just add just a little bit, is that, I understand about the number, maybe about 16 million, 15 million, 14 million, but how is that being applied to the taxes, the taxpayer property taxes? And how could it relieve them of some of those taxes? And I understand by sitting up here for a while that even with a rollback, people still get high tax bill too as well. So how can it, or how would that, or how have that relieve some of them from those taxes? That's all. Thank you.
Right, and I don't have the number, but the benefits of a sales tax are anyone who comes in from out of county or out of state pays that sales tax here. And so every dollar you collect through a sales tax from a non-resident is one less dollar you have to collect in taxes from your residents. It's great because it's, when people come from outside of the county and they enjoy the benefits and services and amenities that the county has to offer, this is one way that they can help contribute to that.
Thank you.
And Aaron, I'm correct when I say that all lost revenue goes to general fund. The county's portion goes to the county's general fund. So that, if that amount is $10 million, then the property tax burden is relieved of $10 million. Is that accurate?
That is true, and it has to be that way by law.
So we could figure out what the millage rate would be without loss, and we can figure out what the millage rate would be with differing levels of loss.
Show me the money. Right. Thank you. So guys, all in favor? It passed 5-0. Thank you so much. Next is item number 18A. This is something that I asked for. I'm going to start off by saying no one in particular asked for me to ask for this, but I do think it's appropriate that we pay for this. Actual funding for Nelson Heights Community Center, Watcher Street Community Center, and McIntosh Trail pay for their review, their audit, whatever you want to call it. Ask this board to pay for that because we only allocate so many funds to them anyway, and I think we don't allocate enough for McIntosh to actually pay for their audit. So if this board can find it in their heart to actually pay for their audit, I would greatly appreciate it. You want to go ahead?
Well, the comment is simple. I support doing any kind of audit that you might need to do on anybody. Once again, like I've said, this time and several times before, if we're going to do it, just make everybody. Don't exclude just most everybody, and just look at 3 organizations of of people of color in unserved areas. In the audit that we looked at, I thought we'd go to the Mason where we do our taxes and they run you out what you spent with. And she said, no, JC said, we called in just as you said, and she explained to Anthony and I. She said it's gonna cost from $2,000 to $10,000 to get an audit for 3 years. I said, come on. I said, we don't want to get that money. We only receive, I think, Watt Street is in the same category. It's $3,330 a month, in which most of the time, it doesn't take care of the money. Depending on if the utility bill run you about $1,500 a month. Then you hire somebody for about $600 a month. Then you pay for the security system, which is another $500 a month. You really don't have enough to pay all those bills. So so what I'm saying is nobody's trying to take anything from the county. We're just trying to provide a service for some underserved kids. And if you go on my page, you see about 60 of them, black and white, and all other nationalities, on our page who are just trying to have fun, just to be kids under adult supervision. And let's not make it hard for them. Let's make it easy. And Watt Street the same way. And so I agree with the chairman saying, let's not make it hard, because that wasn't kind of understood to me. I wouldn't support it. It was going to cost that much for an audit for the limited amount of money that you give, and then in the personal tax that I know that I've got personally, and guess what? I don't have nothing to do with it. Changed over to my son, the councilman, but that's fine. I can take that because I've been for a while. My skin a little tough, and I could continue to take it. But don't take it out on the kids. Don't take it out on the community. Take it out if you got a complaint or whatever it is you want to bring. Take it to me, but and I'm gonna just say this, so people won't say I'm out here. If you got something you want to know about me, J.C. Henderson, call me, and I'll tell you. 770-896-3826. Hey, I'm not afraid to talk to you. Anybody. I'll stand toe-to-toe, face-to-face, and we talk about District 4. So let's work together, y'all. Let's help these kids out. All in District 4. All in District 4. Help these kids out, just be kids. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Again, guys, places like Viewpoint Health, Department of Health, places that receive funds, they have an audit every year that they already paying for. Nelson Heights, Washington Street, I don't think we want to make sure that we get them covered, because the amount of funding we give them don't really cover an audit. So if you can find it in your hearts to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. I seek a motion, please.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson?
Could you, since I was counting my mind with somewhere else at this time, and they told me in the meeting, could you kind of explain that motion to me, please? Somebody would.
So this board has approved a policy that requires the nonprofits that receive appropriations to provide to the county a budget or an audit. And what the proposal is that the county pay for that audit so that those three organizations don't have to use their money to complete the audit. So the county's going to fund the audit for them, so it won't cost them any money.
So they're going to pay, like for instance, people who does our taxes and papers and stuff, and we go through it like Mason. They're going to pay Mason to do that audit.
As long as they're certified CPA, as long as they're certified CPA.
Oh, I'm pretty sure if they're not, then I'm pretty sure they will get whom they need.
Commissioner Calvin?
This is Patrick. This is legal. No problem.
Yes, I think it's absolutely appropriate for the county to.
That's all I got.
To fund something that it's when it's imposing that requirement.
Commissioner Sanders.
I just have one question. Is every nonprofit that is receiving appropriation from Newton County turning in an audit
Yes.
Because I know we didn't say audit, we said provide their detailed information as far as, but we didn't specifically say audit, but if that's what the board is gonna go with, that's fine. But I just wanna make sure that every nonprofit that's receiving appropriation, no matter who they are turning in a detailed audit, just like we're requiring these 4 individuals. 3, 4.
Yep.
I wanna make sure that's on record.
Yeah, they're supposed to be. Whether they, I mean, I don't enforce it. Your management team does it, but they are all supposed to
So,
be.
Mr. Sanders, are you gonna submit that every nonprofit that receive appropriation that's on our budget as well, anybody who's receiving funds, no matter if it's intergovernmental, they're turning in a complete detailed audit that's gonna be transparent to the residents of Newton County?
Okay, I think last time we had a lot of discussion about some organizations that are like quasi type of government. So I don't know if you're implying about those entities, but if they are a nonprofit, yes, they do are required to perform an audit. Now, as far as like the economic development, I don't know if you're referring to that group, but they're like a government entity.
Every nonprofit, even if it's economic development, if they're receiving appropriation from this county, we give them funds.
Every nonprofit.
Every nonprofit, we want to see everything. If we're gonna do it for 3 or 4, every nonprofit that receives funding from Newton County, every
All
last
of the
one.
nonprofits.
IDA, JDA, PPA, whoever they are, every last one.
Thank you, sir. Any more discussion? All in favor? Pass 5-0. Next, alcohol license, final reading. I think this is Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess we're just I'll make a motion to approve the final reading of Marathon Food Mart Covington Store Prime LLC, 1814 Highway 11 South Covington, Georgia 30014. Applicant is Hiru Chasa, and he has apparently no criminal history.
Thank
And your motion is to approve the license.
Yes.
Yes. Can I
So
get
stated. So motion as stated by the county attorney.
Can I get some? Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Pass 5-0. Next is citizens' comments. This opportunity we allow citizens to make comments. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Brian Fricks, 130 Cornish Trace Drive, Covington, Georgia. I wanted to make some comments on the motion that was tabled about approval of property on Gregory Road in Flat Rock. If we could see the plat, I could kind of give some information. But I'm a lifelong member of this community. Went to Palmerstone, Cousins, Newton High School. I work at the hospital, been there for 22 years, but what my concern is with this property is that it does lie in the watershed of Newton County. So this is going to impact a lot of our residents as well as Newton County. So it doesn't matter color, income, no variables. But what it is on that plot, there's a lake in the center of the property and it drains into the reservoir. So it has a direct connect. I have a topographical map showing the property, and there's a 100-foot elevation in that short distance that drains directly to the reservoir. So the reservoir was founded with the goal of promoting water quality, adequate for safe, healthy public use, as well as conservation of wildlife, fish, and other beneficial aquatic life. So what I'm asking the commission to do is to look out for the health and well-being of the constituents and not approve this from agriculture to heavy industrial, because The infrastructure's not there. There's a lot going on. The city, as far as oversight, you would be turning it over to the city who, according to the EPA, they've had multiple violations of Clean Water Act in numerous businesses under the city's supervision. West Rock, Fiber Visions, Pactiv, SRG Global, HB Fuller, Old Castle, General Mills, Nishimbo, SKC, Michelin Tread, Komatsu, to name a few. And these are all people who have violated the Clean Water Act. So we'd be putting our drinking water at risk, turning these things over. So that's just my request, that the city look out for the people and choose people over profit. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Commissioner Edwards.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a couple brief announcements. We are going to be having our last and final movie in the park at Denny Dobbs on Friday, August the 26th at 7:00 p.m. We're excited about it. We're actually going to have an electric vehicle on site during the movie so that people get an opportunity to kind of see what electric vehicles are actually like. I'm also going to be having a career and job fair for veterans as well as anyone else in the community on Saturday, August the 27th from 10 a.m. until 4:00 p.m. at St. Paul AME Church, which is 13108 Brown Bridge Road. We are also going to have on that day a mobile veterans unit that is actually going to be there that's really going to be able to help assist our veterans. So we're excited to have that mobile unit there as well. I was also excited to, in Colorado, the week before, reappointed as the 2022-2023 Vice Chair of the Community Economic and Workforce Development Steering Committee. So I'm excited to continue to gain knowledge about how we can really elevate and mobilize our community. Also became a member of the Economic Mobility Leadership Network, which there are only a select few elected officials throughout the United States that are a part of this group. We're going to be traveling around throughout the year to different sites throughout the United States to really see how they mobilize their community from an economic and workforce development and community perspective. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And then also, I was honored to be appointed as the 2022-2023 Vice Chair of the Revenue and Finance Committee through the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. So I'm excited to represent Newton County on a state level as well as on a national level and go to these conferences to gain information so that I can come back and be able to help assist our communities and mobilize it and take it to the next level. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
Mr. Mason, I think we're going to be duplicating efforts because I'm going to have that mobile unit at St. Paul August 20th. So my sorority sister is the federal VA over in Biden administration, and she actually connected me with that on last year. So we're going to be having that veteran mobile unit twice in Newton County, so that's a good thing. Greatly that we actually attend these conferences because, as stated, it's called peer learning and sharing. I know there was a comment mentioned earlier about thinking for ourselves, but we go to these conferences to learn from other counties and other entities to find out what they're doing to bring it back to Newton County. So if we're not learning from others, then we don't need to be going to conventions. And it's really important, and when going to these conventions, speaking to those finance directors, those chairmen, those Department of Treasury, and all those individuals, be able to bring those resources back to the community, that's how you learn and progress versus being stagnant, sitting in the same place all the time and not hearing information and not retaining it. So it's so important that you learn, because if you don't, then you're constantly being in the same position. So being at the conference, I've learned services that other counties providing, and it made me think about what we're doing here in Newton County for our citizens. When they're providing foster care homes for their foster children as well as their parents, when they have a whole entire human service building that has partnerships with their various entities and having those services inside of their buildings, when they're providing housing for residents who cannot afford to live like we're doing in this recession, affordable housing, the counties are doing all of this. So I sit back and think, like, what are we doing here in Newton County? And that's why we go to these conventions, to learn from other entities to find out how they're doing it, revamp it, and make it better. Because if you sit here constantly thinking about the things that you're doing and you're not listening to others, that's mediocrity. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Senator 100% right. It's about doing something for our community. I personally, I like hands-on. I like to sit out in the community, go out to people's doors and find out what their needs are. And I learned that there was a lot of food insecurity in our community. And I said it earlier. At First Baptist Church right over here off of Jackson Highway, there are lines of cars. In fact, I started to, but I changed my mind because I didn't want to maybe impose or embarrass on somebody how many cars was up there. And I thought about a few years ago, I was up there, myself personally. And I thought about in the community, how many calls that I received saying, JC, can you help my family? We need some food boxes, or we need some food, help us out a little bit. Or JC, we need to pay our utility bill, we're behind. And I think we kind of finally addressed that problem. But the problem that I see in our community, first of all, the food insecurity. That's why that I want to give money to local churches like St. Paul, like the Bethlehem Baptist Church, like the West Street Church, like the Pleasant View Baptist Church, and others, until the monies that I had allotted for it would run out, and try to help those families, because we know that they already have a food bank in existence, and all you have to do is buy the food so that they can feed the people who are asking for like for our seniors. Some of them, even though our state representative, Sherry Henderson, had given out fans at our senior services, we still know that there's need some fans out in the community. So that's why we wanted them to go ahead and release our money so that we had $5,000 we want to give to our seniors for fans, so that some of them can so the air can circulate in their homes and stuff they need right now. We wanted to do. We also understand that there's people in our community, single families who children, they don't have nobody to keep them. They don't know where to take them. That's why we wanted, and we're still making Nelson Heights Community Center available for them. We even got people from Rockdale. If you look on my page, you see a lot of kids that in there where we take from our prior summer camp who have came down here because they didn't have nowhere to go in order to have that summer camp for the kids that really need it. I mean, we could always go anywhere and help people everywhere, but I believe, I'm a firm believer, I'm closing, Mr. Chairman, that charity starts at home. And let's start doing something right now, help our people right here at home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowell. Thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Henderson, Vice Chair, for filling in for me at the last board meeting. Thank you so much, sir. I greatly appreciate the job that you did. Also, we're doing this Saturday, teaming up with the Lindsay firm, we're doing a back-to-school giveaway. Not only are we doing a back-to-school giveaway, but we are helping young kids who have found themselves in some trouble, trying to help them get their record clean. So if you know of anyone 18 and younger that have found themselves in that situation, please, ma'am, please, sir, let us know so we try to get them some assistance. I'm sorry? Yeah, go ahead.
What I want to say, it's not an easy job. I mean, man, I tell you, one thing after another, but make a long story short, with time, and I thank you, and I like to thank the Board of Commissioners and the interim county manager for putting up with me for that time, and we got through it, and I think we got the work done as usual.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to add about our department directors here. I definitely hear where the commissioners go out and get training and ideas from outside entities. But I will say that the directors here in Newton County, I'm very impressed with. They bring ideas to me, to our organization, and if you just look around and see what's happening, there are a lot of changes that are occurring in our community, and they're focused. They want you all to know that we're professionals, we're getting it right, we're learning, but we have talent here. I just want you all to know that.
Thanks, sir. Guys, I seek a motion, please.
Second.
It's been motioned by, Commissioner Everett, and it's been seconded by, who's seconded by? Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor?